Hey mate, how you doing?
All right, you?
Yeah, your collar's looking a lot tidier than mine. Have you ironed that?
It's been properly ironed and sat in the wardrobe for 4 months or whatever it is.
Been used, been in the wash, and it's straight back on my back. So apologies if anybody's thinking I'm a scruff. I am.
You?
So what we were going to do tonight, for those that are on, it looks like there's a few joined now actually, which is good. What we were going to do was we are going to have a bit of a chat and just talk about futsal generally, but also how Inspired came about, what we've been doing, what our journeys have been, where we're at the moment, how lockdown's been, and also what the future holds, and a couple of other things along the way. If anybody wants to ask any questions, I can see the posts coming up, and I think, can you see them, Steve?
Yeah, yeah.
Right, I'm going to put one thing to rest right now. I keep referring to you as Steve whenever we're live, but in person, when there's just the two of us or we're with our mates, I always call you Jacko. So I'm going to continue to call you Jacko because it just feels weird.
Same thing.
Right?
Same thing for you. Same thing for you. I was
Yeah.
just I think to start things off, what I was I think people will be interested to know just a little bit about your coaching journey. I know you've been here, there, and everywhere really, in all sorts of different countries and different jobs. It's hard to keep up, so maybe a whistle stop tour around your sort of past and where you've come to today.
Okay. I'll try and keep it short, but it's like you say, it's been a long one. So I obviously finished playing semi-pro and amateur football when I was 35. I think I was at Poynton I was at the Poynton at the time. Took over managing them with no coaching badges. They put me through my level one. I was working at a college at the time as well, and they put me on my level two when I started running their teams. And then I was just doing that for a while, and then I ended up on my UEFA B license, and on the back of that, Nigel Glegorn, who was my tutor at the time, he got me in at Bury Academy, and I was there for about 5 years when I was on another course, a youth mod course, and these guys that were at Man United at the time, Matt Gregory and I think it was Damo, came and collared me in the car park and asked me would I be interested in joining United, which was a bit of a weird question for a Liverpool fan, but I was thinking, you know what a great leap that would be. So off I went for the trial day at United, got in there as an international academy coach, and I was there for 8 years. And despite being a Liverpool fan, loved every minute of it. Got to see a lot of the world, probably 20 plus countries, including places like Japan, Brazil, China, Africa, quite a lot of Europe, Italy, um, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, places like that. Had a fabulous time. And while all that was going on, Ryan, obviously my stepson, who some of the viewers will know, Ryan suddenly gained an interest in futsal and went down to Sala Soccer, who some of you will know, and I can see that some of the viewers are current or ex-Sala Soccer members. So Ryan went there, I went down to watch, knowing no inclination for coaching, and just like what has happened everywhere I've been with Ryan, the people who are involved say, "Oh, you do a bit of coaching, don't you?" And then before you know it, you're part of the setup. So did a little bit for Neil at Sala, got a bit of a keen interest in it. Ryan ended up going to Manchester Futsal, and I went with him. Same thing happened there. Ended up doing some coaching there, and before you knew it, I was head of the under-21s, as they were there, the development squad. Then I was assistant manager with Sergi with the first team for a year, and then this came around really. I started doing this, set up the. We'll get into that a bit more detail, but set up the leagues, got the development stuff going, and in the football side, I now work for Liverpool, which is great for me, obviously. I know. With my first job coming up in Iceland, which is a country I've never been to. And all the while I've been working in grassroots football and grassroots futsal. So yeah, quite a long journey. But here we are.
I won't take anything like as long, but as always, I'll blame you for everything that's happened in my coaching journey. So you were always on at me for years. I think I used to come and watch you when you were coaching Bury, and because really I was, I don't know, I just never really thought it would suit me. I was always going watching City home and away, so I was really late to it, and it only really happened for me when Lewis started playing at Glossop. An opening came about, so they put me through my coaching badges, and so the journey began. So as far as futsal goes, a leaflet came through the door, simple as that, from Manchester Futsal. They were doing a development session at Astley, funnily enough. So Lewis was about 4 or 5 at the time, and I just liked the look of it. I thought about skills and ball control, and so we went along there, and that's really, we kind of left it for a little bit after that until Glossop started to play a little bit. I started to watch you and Ryan, and then of course that famous day when you needed someone to help you at Manchester, and I those famous words, I'll help out when I can, and here we are. Now do this more than my normal job. So I went through my level 1 futsal, did my level 2, did the rest from the very beginning. Absolutely love it, and the kids do as well, which is the main thing. So a slightly shorter journey. It's all your fault, but one thing I was interested to ask you actually about futsal and football, because you've obviously coached both at a good level. I suppose, what are the differences, and how does one help the other? On that.
Well, I don't. For the people that are watching, most of them seem, from looking at the viewers at the minute, most of them have either played or are involved in futsal already, so they'll already know that it's a 5-a-side game as opposed to an 11-a-side game. But the main differences are, for me, is that it's a much faster, more furious game. So a lot of people think skills are what futsal's all about. So they tend to equate skills and when you see the freestylers and stuff like that, that's what they think futsal is all about. And when they come to me and ask about joining, it's usually with a view to improving skills. What I always say to them is that, yeah, that will probably happen because you're in a tighter area, but the most important thing is that you'll learn to think quicker, because you're in such a tight area. You don't really have the time or the space to think about anything. You imagine on football, some of the kids play on full-size pitches, less so now where we've got size-specific and age-specific pitches, but when you get on that futsal court, you're almost got a player on you before you have any time to think. So it's a lot about reactions and seeing pitches before they actually happen. So they can play a lot quicker. And actually, when you watch a lot of the teams play futsal at the top level, the Spains, the Brazils, and the Barcelonas, and the Inter movie stars, etc. Their speciality is moving the ball quickly. It's not necessarily about beating players all the time and dribbling the full length of the court. It's more about passing the ball quickly and then rotating. And where the two line up is, if you watch, I said this to the lads at the development centre on Thursday. If if you watch your favourite football team, and let's say, I think when I was asking, there was about 6 of them that were Man City fans. So I said to them, you watch the likes of David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, etc., even Phil Foden to a degree. What they do really well is they move the ball quickly. It's not necessarily long passes. It's not necessarily dribbling, because David Silva, for example, has not got the pace to do that. But what he does really well is he sees pitches and he finds pockets of space to operate in, and that's because he's constantly checking his shoulder and looking around him to see what's going on, and that's where futsal and football really kind of overlap, I think. So I always try and paint those pictures for the kids as well, so that they understand it a little bit better.
Yeah, I think when I first started, I think the mistake that I made was it was just going to be football indoors, and you soon realize it's not. I think what really helps that is the surface and the dimensions, but also the rules that are played really speed up the game. When if we've got time, obviously we do stop clock, which makes it so much more intense, so much more focused, and it naturally speeds up, and I think it's a better game to watch. And as I say, the kids really enjoy it. I think that sort of brings us on to Inspired, because we were at Manchester for a couple of years. Situations changed with with what we were doing personally and professionally, and you started Inspired, and just talk me through really how that started, and then on to the leagues, which have been so successful.
Yeah, so like you say, professionally, I wasn't doing full-time football or futsal. None of us were. I was working at a college for 21 years, and not even in this space. I was doing IT, as you know, as you always say to me, blah blah blah, something about computers. That was me, and so I got to a point where I'd been saying to Ryan and Amy for years, like, do something that you love doing, because you'll never feel like you're working. And luckily, Amy works in media now, and she absolutely loves it. And Ryan's at uni doing a football related degree, and absolutely loves it. I'd pretty much said that to a lot of the players that I'd worked with as well, and I got to a point where I was thinking, what about me? I've 21 years working in IT, and as good as the money was, I didn't really enjoy the work, and wanted to make a full-time career out of this. And I hear this a lot when I'm doing level 1s and level 2s. Why are you here? Why are you doing this? Why do you want to be on this course? And they quite often say that they want to do full-time coaching or in football full-time. And I never discourage it. It's quite like playing the game. It's quite a difficult one to get into and make a living out of it. But if you can do it, quite often it's a result of putting a few different jobs together. So I was doing the same thing. I was working at Man United part time. I was working at I just started working at the FA, I think, at that time, doing the FA level 1s and 2s. I was doing stuff with FCV Academy abroad in India and Nigeria, and I just thought I could make a career out of this if I put all that together and I can balance my time. So I took redundancy from the college, and I used that to kind of help me build my own business. The Inspired logo that you see behind you, the logo was created by my stepdaughter Amy. As I say, she works in media and she's pretty good at that sort of stuff. So she did that. But the Inspired name actually came from, we wanted a name that included the partners' names. So the partners of Inspired Soccer, which is the bigger company, the limited company, the partners there at the time were myself, Paul Neary and Dan Barber. We wanted our initials in there somewhere, so we tried to come up with a word that was meaningful, but also was also represented all of us. So obviously that's where the name came from. And then what we wanted to do was we were going to do international coaching, because that's what we'd all been doing at Man United. We just wanted to use some contacts that we made over the years and do international coaching and just travel a little bit. And it just kind of, one thing led to another. We ended up making more contacts. And then obviously with the futsal thing, as you say, we both worked at Manchester Futsal, got a really good ground in there, learned a ton of stuff off Sergi, as you well know, Sergi being the head coach at Manchester Futsal. Worked with some amazing players there, and from that, I think, because I was trying to build up this business, I just wanted to bring futsal into the business. So we didn't have Inspired Futsal at that time, but I'd been asked a lot about doing it in Tameside, which is where we're both from. We've both grown up round here, and I wanted somebody to help me with that. And having known you for as long as I have, and known your passion for both football and futsal, I couldn't think of anybody really better to get involved. And
nobody else, I'm going to say.
There was nobody else left, so I scraped the barrel and came up with you. And like I say, we started with one league, a Friday night league, an under-15 league, and then that generated more interest. We got under-14s involved, and we needed more days because we had more teams that wanted to get involved. So we started a Thursday night league, which was a combination of under-14s and under-15s. We've now got an under-12s league, and we've got other age groups asking as well. So, yeah. And then along came the development centre, of people saying, well, I play football, I can't really take part in a league. But is there anything that you do separately, and any training? And at the time, I just kept saying no. But there was that many asking. I thought there must be something in this. So I asked the local college, Tameside College, if they had any space there on their court, because I knew they had a really good court there. And they did. So we started the development centres. And then that's kind of where we got to with that.
Yeah, I think for me, when we first started it, we all development centres, we would have hundreds of kids come in, and we set off with that intention. The leagues then, kind of came with a second idea really, and that took off and brought the development centre alive. So it's taken a little bit of time, but really good to see not only the leagues flourishing, but now the development centres as well. And for me, when I first started refereeing those leagues, I wanted Lewis to be involved. He played at Manchester, he played at Glossop, but he wasn't playing anymore. So it was either join an existing team or and I think it kind of killed two birds, because I was really looking to coach as well. So looking around, really, we could have started a team under Inspired, I suppose, but not having a lot of players, we said, well, we'll go under the AFC Stanley banner. Started off relatively slowly. The under-15s were first, with players from outside the club join, and eventually we got a kit, thanks to Kerry, and we started playing in the league. And I think, for me, what's been most impressive about that team is that playing in East Manchester Division 2, every opponent that we play against in that Tameside league is of a higher football standard. So Glossop, FC Sports, Marple. But the thing that the boys have gained is a lot of confidence in the fact that the way that we play futsal is different to football. You can see, especially with the under-14s now, when I them play football, there's a lot more of them play football. So out of their starting 11, there might be 7, 8, 9 who play, and you can really see the improvement. It's really noticeable the way that they move the ball quicker, and it's not just one or two of them; it's the 5, 6, 7 combinations. So it's really pleasing, really, as a coach, to watch that happening. You can see the benefit there of playing futsal to the football team.
Didn't you say that you had a conversation with one of the coaches at AFC Stanley that said something along the lines of they can see a noticeable difference now?
Yeah, so it was Wayne. Yeah, so Wayne 14s, and he said when he first came along, he wasn't convinced, wasn't sure what it was about. His son was one of the mainstays of the football team. He was really keen, um, and he's just took to it like a duck to water. So thinking about playing for the 14s, and he plays for the 15s as well. So the pleasing thing about that, really, size and power and strength, which is so dominant in football, 11 aside at that age, it really gets levelled out in futsal because the little ones come to the fore, really can start showing their skills. So in his team, I don't know if you've ever watched them, they've got a couple of big players. So Joel and Max, well, Max is bigger than me. Most of them are really small, and they've got a couple of players playing up a year. So when you watch them, the size is noticeable in that there's not a lot of big players. But the way that they move the ball and the improvement, Wayne's commented on this a few times, is just night and day. Obviously, the good thing about playing on all the time is it lends itself to the ball being on the ground. And the kids have all done great. Their attitude, class, the determination they show is brilliant. And I think it'll be good things. I think if you could wind back time, you'd want them starting at 7 and 8. So they're not learning the game at 14, 15. And that's ultimately where we want to be in a few years, is that we've got a conveyor belt of 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds all filtering.
What differences have you seen with Lewis over the last few years since his involvement with futsal?
His temper's changed much, but
Tell me about it. I've got a record.
I don't think it helps you so well. Lewis has always been really good with his feet. I think because he's one of the youngest in his year, born right at the end of July. When football went 9 aside, 11 aside, he really struggled playing central midfield. So the futsal's definitely helped him. He's quick-minded, quick feet as well. And he understands the game tactically. We have got a few players like that in our side that really, Ramsey's another one whose development of how he understands the game. You've seen that, watching it. Joel Moore's another one. Joel, all these players now understanding of futsal. And it takes a little while because, like I thought, just play indoor football, it's the same. Huge differences, huge. And slowly but surely, you're seeing that. And I think for Lewis, it's the quick decision making. And also it's mental strength, because I talk about this when I play, just about the physicality of it and the futsal side of it. It's how you deal with it mentally as well. So what's your attitude, determination? You go 6-0 down in futsal. These players now don't get, whereas they would do at first. We on the we were beating Glossop 6-1 at the time, and obviously being the person I am at half time saying this isn't over, and they're all like 6-1, finished. 5 minutes later, 6-all, and it's just, football would not ever do that. So I think from a determination, resilience, never give up, it really helps him in that respect as well. So see right through both squads.
It lines itself a lot to basketball as well, doesn't it, futsal? I mean, it's obviously played with the feet, so it's got the football element of it. But when you think about the rotations that go on, the stop clock, the end-to-end part of it, the fact it's end-to-end is unbelievable, isn't it? Like you said, you could be 6-1 up, then 7-6 down within 5 minutes. And I remember talking to your lads when they first started in the league and saying to them, I think they were probably about 5 or 6 down at half time. I remember saying to them then that we were there, weren't we, when looking after Manchester's development squad when we watched the first team, and it was 1-1 at half time or 1-0, I can't remember which, against Helvetia.
Yeah,
and the final score, and by the time we came back out again after we'd been in and got changed and came back out of the velodrome,
yeah,
the score was 10-1.
yeah,
And some of the lads, even the lads that play quite a lot, they were thinking, how the hell has there been 9 goals? All we've done is we've gone in and got changed, done a bit of a team talk, come back out. But
yeah,
I always use that as an example of how things can change really, really quickly. And I think in that game, your lads then came back, got 3 goals, and suddenly the game was tight again.
yeah.
And that's the beauty of futsal, I think, over football. It's never over, is it, no matter what the score?
No, and I think that's a big help because we're talking about these young children, men, boys, but this resilience that they'll get will help them later on. So if they want to play futsal, great. If they don't, but when you go out into the real world, never giving up, doing your best, working hard, having that resilience, these are all skills that you can learn and
Yeah.
in other walks of life. So great that they've got this medium to bring those out, but it's definitely the case. And also, I think looking at the development of the two teams specifically at Stanley, it's just belief, really, in the way that you can play. Like I say, my boys, when we played FC Sports the first time, I know they called Futsal 5, but um, the lads knew where they were from, and they're top of the Prem, and it was like we were going to get battered. But it's just giving them that belief. And I said to them, I think just before the match started, I said to them, if we went outside and played them at 11 aside, they'd probably beat us. But we're not. We're playing futsal. And you could see that belief in the training and coaching, and great credit to the boys that we've had some good games, some great games against them, and some good results as well.
I think that's a good point because it's a great leveler in it, futsal. And you're saying that, and I know Steve Logan's tuning in at the minute, so apologies for this, Steve. But FC Sports are, like you say, top of the East Manchester Prem a lot of the time, or up there certainly. And Glossop North End, my old team, and teams that are supporting our league brilliantly at the moment, they're normally towards the bottom of that Premier League, aren't they? But yeah, you get them on a futsal court, and 99 out of 100 Glossop are winning that, aren't they? It used to be more convincingly, less so now, but Steve's doing a great job of catching them all up. But yeah,
Glossop have been brilliant, haven't they? Glossop have been brilliant from the start, no matter what age group.
No, they've really got into futsal in a big way. They want to. I know they're looking to embed it throughout every age group within the club, and they have something like 500 players at that club. And like you say, they've got an under 12s team in our league. They've got an under 14s team in our league. They've got an under 15s team in our league. And I think that they're probably going to be entering more teams. And you can see the benefits when they play the football as well. But on the futsal court, we went down, didn't we? Saw a few of their games in the Northwest Regional Futsal League, and they won every game. And they're playing some of the top teams. They're playing Manchester Futsal, Bolton Futsal, some of the big boys, and they're winning them games. And it's no coincidence that they've been playing for 3 years, is it?
It's fantastic for our league as well because they're like the example of what can be achieved, and I look at that as a great thing. That the standard of that league is just, it's crazy from the way it's improved each year, from teams who had just started to teams who are regular futsal teams, proper futsal teams now, and it's only going to help. And although it's difficult to be on the end of some of the scores, rather that be the case than us turning up and rolling over teams. That it's something to aim for, and lads themselves have said, look, Glossop are the team to catch. We've got them in our sights, and I think it's really good for the league that they're in. As you say, they've been great supporters in everything they do. Ben and Ryan and the team there just really great supporters of our league throughout, aren't they?
You're right. Of all of all the teams, take your own team out. Your own teams. You've got two teams, haven't you? But take your own teams out of it and Glossop, who we've mentioned. Of all the teams that you've seen, who's impressed you the most? I know it's putting you on the spot a little bit, but who's impressed you the most in terms of the development that you've seen?
I think I would refereed a game up at Tameside College. What's the new team like? You had all the young players. I can't. No, I can't remember the name of them now.
Oh, UK Sports.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So they were. I think they brought a younger age group, a couple of years below. But the courage that they showed, 5-0, 6-0, whatever the score was, there was one lad at the back just kept getting the ball, trying beating players, and that will stand them in great stead for years to come. Having that confidence and courage, and obviously the coaches getting that mentality through to them that it's about the development for them and enjoying it. And so, of the ones in our league, I think I enjoyed watching them the most. The other side, apart from that, externally, when we went to the FA Cup, when the under-14s represented Manchester, so 2 months after forming as a team, there we were at Platt Lane in the FA Cup, which is remarkable. There were proper futsal teams there. I mean, so Carlisle and Bolton. It was a pleasure watching them. Hard to take because there was a couple of defeats there, but it was a pleasure to watch, and I think the lads will learn more. Funnily enough, the first game I did was at Bolton when they smashed us 9-1, I think it was. We equalised 9-1, and their faces were on the floor, changing room, and we were saying to them that you learn more in defeat than you do in victory. And got fast forward a few years, they definitely benefited from that. They might not remember it, but those lads that were in the chain definitely.
Hard sell that, isn't it? The defeat, the learning stuff from defeat, learning more from defeat. It's quite a hard sell to teenagers and young kids, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, from my experience in the limited time I've been doing it, I think when you say to kids, it's not about the result. Obviously, we want to win. You know, we want to turn up, we want to play well, we want to score goals, we want to win. But that's not the way that we measure whether we're improving or not. So I always say to the boys that, we could be 5-0 up and we've done absolutely nothing that I've asked you to. You've just been doing what you want, and just because we're naturally better, we're winning. Or we could be losing and doing everything right. So I'm really consistent with it, and giving that consistent message eventually gets through to them. They start joking with you back a little bit about it's not about the score. But for me, I don't just look at the scoreboard and say, if we're winning, then we're doing well. If we're losing, we're not, because it's much complicated than that and much more involved. So, but eventually, be consistent with that, and they do start to believe you, I think.
Well, just while we have a bit of a pause here, saw a couple of messages go up. One was asking about whether we were inviting questions, and the answer is yes. If you've got any questions, fire away. Steve said he's got Steve. I called you Steve again. Jackal, he's going to write them down. That's because the futsal legend that is Sam Richardson has just joined us. Hi, Sam. And he put Russ and Steve, so that made me say Steve. So Jackal, Steve, whatever you want to call him, he's going to write any questions down that we've got or that you've got, and we'll try and answer them at the end as best we can. That was my wife, I think, that asked are we answering any questions. She must have a load lined up, which is a bit worrying because her questions are quite answer.
Right, well, I'll up on my screen. I'll make a note of them.
Oh yeah, so there you go. Rizzle Sauce has asked the question. Can you see that? Jackal? Can you see the questions that are going up?
No.
All right. So he said, teams embed football into their traditional football programs. So just make a note of that, and we'll
just repeat that.
Sauce, the Inspired League. Rizzle Sauce, identify yourself. I can't picture who you are.
It's Cinco. It's Ryan, isn't it? From
is it? All right. Okay. Hi, Ryan. How you doing?
Answer that one now, Russ.
Yeah. Well, Nick's just actually said maybe answer as they're asked.
Yeah,
She's,
definitely.
she's always telling me what to do, so we
Obviously.
better do it. So yeah. So it's just if we get more coming up that while we're still answering, that's the problem because you only see two lines at a time.
Right. So
So
what was in less
so
than 5 minutes?
So yeah, I mean, in answer to your question, Ryan, you're probably doing this already, but I know that's probably for the more wider audience. I tend to do a lot of futsal stuff within my football sessions. So, for example, at the moment, I'm working with my futsal players, but on a football 3G pitch. Sam's probably just going to switch off at that because he's an absolute purist, isn't he? And he doesn't want to see futsal being played on a 3G, and neither do I. But
Eats
times
must.
times are weird, so we've got to do what we've got to do. But yeah, so I tend to make things quite small. So I'll set up boxes, for example, where the area is quite small, and that means that they've got to think quickly. And I might restrict touches. I'm not a massive fan of restricting touches to two touch and one touch because you've got to do what comes naturally in a game, and some players are naturally skillful, so you don't want to take that out of them necessarily. So if you're going to do it, I'd say do it in small spurts. But yeah, I do tend to do that quite a lot. So make areas tight, get them thinking a little bit quicker. Rotations are a big part of what I'll do in both futsal and football, so I'll try and coach that in there as well. Um, I've been using a futsal on the 3G, and I wasn't sure if it worked, so I took footballs with me just in case. But actually, it wasn't too bad on that 3G. It doesn't bounce the same, of course, but it travels the same when if you're keeping it on the ground, then you don't necessarily have that problem. But I really wanted him to get a feel for using the futsal. It doesn't bounce as much as we know. It feels slightly heavier, although it's actually not. It's just more dense. And I try and get them to use. So I try not to get them to wear studs on the 3G if I can. I'll try and get them to use Astro trainers because I want them to use the sole of the foot. You ever watched? Do you remember that game, Man City, when De Bruyne did that little shift of the ball with the sole of the foot and then just curled it in the top corner? That's a great example of where futsal has obviously benefited him at some point in his career, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's what I do, Ryan. There's more to it than that, but I'm getting asked more questions. So
All right.
Nick has said, "Who's the most inspirational futsal player you've seen or coached?" Not including Ryan, she says, and
Yeah.
that's to both of you. So I'll let you lead with that, Steve. Jacko,
Most.
most inspirational futsal player you've seen or coached?
I think seen or coached. Yeah, Lewis is in the back.
Going me, me.
Trying to get to say him. I think the most inspirational one that I've seen. Is Sam still on?
Sam, just let us know because I'm not checking to see who's watching.
No, I
There's enough watching. He's still
think the games I've seen a few at Manchester. I coached one where Kingy was. You know what Kingy's like. He's full of life, full of ideas. He was on the bench for the development team, and so he was constantly saying, "Bring me on. I'm the game changer," and all this kind of thing. But behind all that, there was quite a serious guy and helping out the youngsters, and the way he played, and the way he brings other players into the game. I'd never seen anything like it. I was fairly new at that point, so that always stands out. I think then talking about players that we've coached, I think there was a moment for me when the under-16s all came through at the same time. I think we played them in a game. So we had Adam and Ryan and Charlie, Matty, but we were joined by Sal, Jake Barnes, Rylan, and Scott had joined as well. And I think those as a group were really, really changed. I think changed the way that the team went, because there was a danger we were losing players. We hadn't had a brilliant season, but they changed the destiny of that side. Some of them now play in the first team, and from the moment they came in, I was really impressed with them. I was sat at the bench at Trafford watching these 15, 16-year-old lads. So, say Sam and Jake, Rylan, just blew me away. So I'd say.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, like you, I definitely, Sam's definitely there. I mean, in terms of his reach across that club, he inspires the youngsters. So he runs the under-16s and the 14s. Ilya the same. Ilya with Simon and Sam, they run that club from top to bottom, and they're pretty inspirational characters that affect all that youth set up in such a way that we can only aspire to, really, and hopefully we're doing that within the Thames side and surrounding areas. But we haven't had that playing experience that they've had, and that's quite big to them. We can bring the coaching side of it, but when you played the game at a level, people see that and they're quite inspired by that. So yeah. But for me, I think seeing Doug Reid, for those of you that are not familiar, Doug, he plays for England, has got over 100 caps. He's now an FA futsal tutor along with Sam. I think they've done a couple of courses together now. But he, like Kingy, like Sam, like Ilya, Doug was massively inspirational for those kids coming through. They saw what he was doing on the international stage and in the national leagues, and they wanted to do that. They wanted to be Doug, and I think his influence, just for the 1 year that I worked with him, was incredible, and not just on the players but on myself as well. I went watching him playing in international games, and I watched him. Well, I was coaching him with Sergi at Manchester. Not that I could probably teach Doug anything.
What do you think here, Doug?
About futsal? Yeah, but yeah, he's definitely been one of the most inspirational. But yeah, like you say, that development team that we had, it was incredible. I mean, it had such a mix of skill, speed of thought, tenacity, guile. They just wanted to learn. Everything you talked to them about was sinking in, and they just got better and better and better, didn't they? Yeah. Kind of leads me really to my next question, which was your favourite moment in futsal. There's probably been a few.
Yeah, probably. I mean, we just touched on the under-14s playing in the FA Cup. The under-15 starting was a great moment. Having a lot of hard work getting to that point on my own. I'll probably go back to the Manchester days. There was two, I think, that stood out. The first one was Sunderland away. Driving the fun bus is always a laugh. Picking up all the lads, driving them there, and seeing Wayne and the guys up there was always a pleasure. Great venue, the Stadium of Light. Young team, and we're always talking about fast start. I was there on my own, and we were 4-1 down. I think it was 4-1 half time. And just really the half-time team talk, because you talk about the characters that were there, and I think a lot of the time the answers are within the team. You know, you don't have to put that responsibility on yourself to try and think of everything. So I let them talk, and Jake sorted him out, decided he was going to take the game by the scruff of the neck. Rafe was also magic, and we turned that round and won. So that was the first one. But I think I'm going to steal your thunder, because I think the game that both of us enjoyed the most was the Bolton game, Trafford, when we started with 6 outfield players, 1 keeper, and we lost Rylan. Was struggling anyway and did well to turn up. Struggling, and again the half-time team talk was similar. Nothing about tactics, just about attitude, mentality. You know, working together as a team, and I've never seen a team galvanised like that. And I think we won 5-3 in the end. To beat Bolton, we were one of the top sides. So I think those two moments.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one, the one at the Bolton game was something else, wasn't it? I remember walking back. So we were at the soccer dome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember walking back to the changing room. I had my tactics board in my hand. I was doing some stuff on the tactics board as we were walking back, and I thought, just as I was walking in the changing room, I thought, this ain't a time for tactics. This isn't a time for going through stuff. This is just a time for galvanising and back to the wall, and that spirit that I knew we had within us, but we needed to get that out of them. And we remember we said to them, like, everything's going against us here. We've got hardly any players. We've got one player with one leg, which was Rylan at the time. We're not going to be able to make any substitution.
No.
So it's really just a case of come out fighting and give everything you've got, and let's see what happens. We can still do it. We shouldn't write it off. I think we were losing at half time. Was it?
I think so. Yeah, I think the characters in that team. It was just perfect. I think, and this is the tough thing about coaching, is to try and get into the mind of each one. So, Charlie's really quiet. Same with Ryan. It's just a question of getting them up for it. I remember Scott Thompson saying that he could only play angry. So I stood with him waiting for him to come, and I said something about Leeds being rubbish. And he just looked at me and on he went, like, with that angry face. So I remember that for a lot of reasons. And the result was good in the end. So that worked great. Because I think I don't know if you've got any other questions. I've got a couple that I wanted to ask you before, because we're about 4. So the next step.
Steve, I've got another one from Ryan.
All right.
Into what you're gonna ask anyway. It was about the short, medium, and long-term vision for Inspired and just futsal generally. But I think we're going to cover that, aren't we, over the next 10 minutes or so.
I wanted you to talk a little bit about the development centre. So what's happening with that, and then we might talk about our exciting potential new news for Inspired. Just go back to the development centres, because they're now taken back outdoors, unusually, with all the restrictions and guidelines that we're having to work with. So how are they been going?
So the development centre started last year sometime. I can't remember exactly when it was, but like I say, I've been asked quite a lot from players that were in teams. Did we offer training? Some were playing in the futsal teams in our league, and others were playing football and wanted to learn futsal or get involved in futsal in some way, but couldn't commit to the league because their teams didn't want to play or couldn't play, but they wanted to. So that's what started us off. And to be fair, the interest has been better than I could have imagined. So we filled the first age group. We started with, most of the interest was in the 11 to 13 age group, and we filled that really quickly. So I never do more than 16 players, I think, any more than that, and you're not giving them the time that they deserve and that they're paying for. So I always set 16 as my cap, and then anybody after that goes on a waiting list, and we might create another group. And I remember saying that, and then we got 18, and I thought, what do I do here now? So do I put 2 on the waiting list, or do I coach 18? I remember I coached them for 1 week, and it was what I imagined it to be. It was difficult. Tried to work in 2 halves of the court, but it didn't give them enough time on the ball. And of course, that's what futsal's all about. It gives you something like 7 times more touches at the ball than you would get in football. So I didn't want to take that away from the development centre. So we capped it at 16. We put a couple on the waiting list. And then we got interest at the older ages. It's weird how ours is work, because I know Mike Melvin, who does futsal and a few other bits and pieces over Middleton way. He gets loads and loads of interest at 7 to 10, and so does Neil at Sala. They get a lot of interest in that sort of 7 to 10 age group, but we were getting that. We were getting, I don't know if it's a Thames side thing, but we were getting a lot of interest at 11 to 13, and then some interest 14 to 16, and that's why the leagues have gone the way they have. But so we went on to do a 14 to 16 age group the hour after the 11 to 13, and then suddenly got quite a lot of players asking about or parents asking about the younger age group all at once. So we created another development centre. So we now have 3 that run usually on a Wednesday over at Tameside College, and the young ones go 6 till 7, the middle group go 11. The 11 to 13 group go 7 till 8, and the older group go 8 till 9. And there's been more interest since then, so I think we're going to probably go on to other days. During this lockdown period, I did 7 weeks of online futsal coaching, which was interesting. So I remember the first week we started, and I spent about 40 minutes coaching on a tactics board, and I could see when I watched it back, so we videoed them all, and I remember watching it back, and I could see the interest waning a little bit. But we did about 10 minutes of fun online games together, quizzes and stuff like that, and they really, really enjoyed that. So I tailored it a little bit, and I made my tactics board thing more like 20-25 minutes, and then 20-25 minutes of fun stuff. So we added to it a futsal quiz that we did every week, and we did it collectively, so they'd all send me their answers to a multiple choice quiz, and then we'd collectively go with the most popular answer, and we were always trying to beat last week's score. But what it said to me was that their knowledge of futsal was getting better, their general knowledge of futsal, because they were getting sort of 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 by the end, which was really good, because when they first started they knew absolutely nothing. They were a beginners group. So since lockdown's been eased a little bit and we can do stuff outdoors, I was a bit torn whether to do futsal outside. Like I said earlier, it's not natural, it's not the purest thing to do, but I really wanted it to get them going again in terms of fitness and the tactical side of things. So, and they can still do technique and technical stuff. It's just slightly different, the roll of the ball and the spaces that we have. So, like I was saying to Ryan earlier, we try and make the spaces small so that we replicate futsal a bit more. And it's been going really well. We've done a couple of weeks of it now. We're enjoying it. It's difficult with no contact. And we're probably going to carry this on until we get the go-ahead to go back indoors. And as soon as we go back indoors, I'm hoping that we'll be back to it on the futsal court with contact and everything. And who knows when that's going to be, but that's the one.
More to get Ashley ready. He's chomping at the bit, and as soon as it's safe, we'll be back there. So I think one thing to finish on, was I've chucked out a couple of teasers to my lot about some exciting new news, and I just wondered if you just wanted to go through what the next step is. So we've come quite a long way in the last couple of years with development centres. The leagues are flourishing. You've got your own Inspired team on a Monday that we've not touched on, but there's some exciting news coming in addition to all that. So what's the next step and the next vision?
So like you say, we started a new team. It's a shame really, because we started it probably a month or 6 weeks before the lockdown came in. So we'd literally just got going, and then we had to stop again, which is a real shame, because we've got 10, 11 really keen players there that are so fascinated with the game, really want to sort of pursue it. And I've got the interest there. Again, did lots of online stuff with them, and they logged in every week. They were brilliant, and their understanding of the game, as you saw on the one where you logged in, you said to me you were really surprised about what they knew about the game and the questions they were asking at such a young age. And they're under 13s. I mean, there are mostly 11s in there, and there's a couple of 12s. I think they've got one 13-year-old, but they're an under 13s team going into under 14s probably next year. They're right at the beginning of the journey. Some of them are football outcasts, really. You know, that classic thing where they're too small, or what's the other way they word it? They don't cover the ground quick enough, or whatever these coaches want to say to them to make themselves feel better. And they just weren't getting opportunities in football and wanted to try something different. And that's how we get a lot of our players, isn't it? Through that route, really. They're often players that are small, slight, not physical enough, and a lot of coaches are looking for that in football. So that team came about really as a result of that, and they're flying now. They're doing brilliant. Love working with them. Their attitude's great. But the news really that we've been talking about this week is that we've had discussions with Kieran Alexander at Northwest Regional Futsal League, and we're looking to create a team of under 16 players for next season that are going to enter that league. And the way we're looking to do that is a bit like you used to play for the regional side when you were at school. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. There used to be like a Manchester regional team, and and they're all over the country. Well, it's a similar sort of thing to that. So what we're going to say is the teams that play in our league at that age group, we're going to just hold an open trial, and those that are interested will come along. They'll join. They'll join in the training session, and we'll look at. And I was having this conversation with Ben Mills, who runs Glossop North End team, and just saying to him that it's not that we're looking for the best players necessarily. We're looking for the players that best fit. So the ones with the right attitude, the ones that want to learn, the ones that are really keen. And we want to get them involved, and from that we're going to create a team that we're going to enter into that under 16s league, and that's really the big news, because Glossop, and I can see Austin's joined us and James Chappington's joined us right at the right time. But Glossop, as we said earlier, they were flying in that league last year and they were winning all the games, and I think there's an opportunity there for another team from the area to get involved, and I think we've got enough players now in the league that we can actually create a decent futsal playing teams, because some of these teams have been playing for a couple of years now in our leagues, and we've got great players. So why not take advantage of that? Just to say as well, Jacko, that unbeknown to me, these Inspired Live things, they only last for a certain amount of time, and we're into the last minute now, so we're probably going to have to stay.
Right. Well, I think the good way to end it on that exciting news, because to have that inspired team under 16, what it also does as well, these lads gives them a real access to stepping up the levels quickly. So the lads that are at Gloucester already in that place will hopefully join the next level. Won't be too far away, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think we've got a pathway now for sure, and we're going to be able to put teams in that league for years to come, I think. Right, we're on to 12 seconds. We're going in the last 10 seconds now. So from me, I just want to say thanks for joining us and goodbye.
See you soon, everyone.
See you soon, guys. Thanks for joining us. See you later.